Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our pre-trip webinar for our Vietnam program. Sorry, I was a minute late. We're just finishing the pre-trip webinar for our Mighty Mekong program, which precedes this. So just bear with me for half a sec while we get this all up on the screen. So we're going to launch right into it. Just bear with me for 1 second while I pull up my relevant notes. Because we're doing this all together here. Okay, great. So, and let me just check the participation. Great. I see a bunch of members already on. So this webinar again is our pre-trip webinar for our Vietnam Land of the Ascending Dragon program happening at the end of November. Excited about this trip because Vietnam is such a cool country to visit for so many different reasons that you're going to find out when you get there. The purpose of this webinar is to answer any questions that you might have and to go over some of the key information that has been provided to you in the pre-trip information document. So a lot of what I'm going to say is already covered in that document. If you haven't read it, please do take another read top to bottom. Make sure you don't miss any lines. There's a lot of very good and important information in there. But I'm going to sort of touch on a few of the key items and as well give you the chance to ask any questions that you have about the program. So let's jump right in. And I think that there's probably a few members who, and hello to everybody who said hello in the chat box. I'm not going to go through all the names right now because we're running a minute or two late, and I like to run right on time. So first of all, introducing your host, the incredible Amber Riedel.
Hello, everyone. So everyone that was just on the Mekong webinar, I might look a little familiar because I'm coming with you to Vietnam. So I will be hosting with Rose on the Mekong trip, and then I will be continuing on for the 2 weeks in our Vietnam trip as well. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm a longtime host, a longtime friend of Gordon, and hosting is like my favorite thing. So I am very much looking forward to being on this trip with everyone and having this be just a spectacular time.
It's going to be an amazing trip. We took a lot of time with our partners in Vietnam, and they're amazing. And you're going to have a terrific time. We're going to do documents first. What to know about documents, obviously, and again, if you just participated in the Mekong pre-trip webinar, you can sort of whatever, cover your ears or grab a coffee or listen to some music because a lot of the information is the same. But make sure you know where your passport is. Don't move it. Don't put it in another special drawer. Just leave it wherever you keep it, and double check the expiry date to make sure that we probably will have looked at it when you sent us the scanned copy of your passport anyway, just in case we red flag it if we see that it's going to expire within 6 months of the return date of your trip. Take a picture of it. Or take a photocopy of it. Just have a copy of it that you bring with you. God forbid anything should happen to it. If you have a copy, it makes life a lot easier. For Vietnam, as you know, because you will have already read the pre-trip information document, you require a visa. You can, because if you're coming on the Vietnam trip only, you can obtain it on arrival. So you don't need to get it in advance. But you could get it in advance, which just, it's one less thing to do when you arrive, because, after you get off that long flight, the last thing you do is more things to do. The link to register for the visa online for the e-visa is in the pre-trip information document. It's pretty straightforward. And so you just, obviously need sort of your personal information and passport information, and you need a credit card to pay the fee. But don't fret, because again, this only applies if you're only coming on the Vietnam portion of the trip. If you're flying into Vietnam, you can get a visa on arrival. If you're coming on the Mekong trip, ignore that statement because you do need to get it in advance. Other than that, you don't need anything for COVID or otherwise. That's basically it. Maybe print out your e-ticket for the airport just in case. I never do, but the odd time that I don't, and then the airline says, "What's your booking code?" And then of course you don't, if you don't have it handy. But it's never a bad idea. What to pack? So the weather in Vietnam is is different from the south to the north. So Vietnam is quite a long country. It goes a long way up to the north. So it will be noticeably cooler when you're up in Hanoi and Ninh Binh and so on. So for the south, for Ho Chi Minh, it's going to be warm. Like it will likely be in the high 20s or even low 30s and fairly humid. And in the evening, it's going to be still warm. It's going to be probably in the low 20s. So in the north, on the other hand, the temperature probably be not significantly cooler, but it could be 7 or 8 degrees cooler. Like it could be sort of low 20s, and temperatures in the evening could be in the teens. So just keep that in mind. You don't need a parka. You don't need anything super warm, but you will probably want to have the odd, lined jacket or a very light sweater or something like that for the latter part of the trip in the north. So the order of the day, of course, is casual. Everything is casual. There is nothing formal on this trip. If on the whatever night that there's no dinner included, that you want to go to some sort of very fine dining restaurant, maybe you put in something a little nicer. But otherwise, we're just amongst ourselves. Be comfortable. That is the most important thing. Footwear is obviously also important. There is walking, of course, on this trip. There's a lot of walking around temples and up and down stairs. And being Asia, particularly in the rural villages and so on, the steps can be uneven. So anyway, I just lost my train of thought there. You want to have something comfortable, but it's also a good idea to have something that you can remove easily. So like running shoes may not necessarily be the best solution, because if there's a temple or there's a place that you go inside, it's customary to remove your shoes. And if you got to untie your shoes and do them back up again, it can be a bit of a pain in the neck. At the same time, I also don't recommend flip-flops because this isn't a beach holiday. So if you do wear sandals, which I think are a great option, like Teva type things, but closed toe is better, because you might stub your toe. I always stub my toe on one of these ruins or temples. It just happens. So keep that in mind. Temples in Vietnam, it is important that we dress respectfully. So shoulders should be covered, particularly for women. For men, it's not. Here's the thing: dress respectfully. So have shoulders covered. Nothing that's sort of too low hanging in the front. And have shorts ideally that come down to, for men, around the knees. For women, you should get your knees covered, or just have a sarong or something so you can just flip it on. A lot of temples will supply that, but I always think it's nice to have your own. Stick it in your little day pack. That's a good thing. Bring a day pack. Bring something that you can carry around stuff with you. And even if you buy stuff along the way, and for a water bottle and all the rest of it. We have sent, Amber, I forgot to mention this on the Mekong. We have sent water bottles to, which hopefully they arrive and get through customs. I know on our last trip, they didn't actually make it. But I think we should be okay. So we should be providing you with a water bottle, a beautiful thermal Wheel and Anchor water bottle. So that's also handy. Otherwise, we'll arrange to get you one if you don't need one. Just saves a little bit from having to buy numerous plastic bottles. And sun protection. So you're going to be out in the sun on many occasions, and so therefore sun hat, sunglasses, sunscreen, please. That's really important on this trip. Anything else in the general packing category, Amber, that I?
No, I think you covered it. I think it's quite easy to have laundry done in Vietnam. So pack light and plan on sending out your laundry. It's relatively inexpensive and very efficient.
It's quite cheap. You can get express laundry done for a couple of bucks a kilo, I think is going rate. So which would then suggest that you might want to even consider traveling with carry-on luggage only, because that way you have no risk if your luggage gets lost. And because it's casual and because it's mostly light clothing, you could get away with carry-on this trip. And then, you can always buy a cheap bag if you decide to bring back a bronze Buddha statue on the way back home. You can just check your luggage anyway. I'm being a little bit facetious, but it's happened. It's happened. Other things to remember: travel adapters. So travel adapters in Vietnam, a little bit of a mixed bag. My experience has mostly been the North American style plugs, like the ones we have at home, work, but Vietnam was obviously colonized by the French for a long time, so they got lots of the European, the French style plugs here. So it's generally those two in Vietnam. So therefore, the universal travel adapter is the best way to address it, or at the very least, the European one, and you should be covered in most instances. The voltage is 230 or 220. So you don't need an adapter for most things, meaning cell phone chargers or I don't think anybody's going to bring a laptop or an iPad. Like, all that stuff is all dual voltage now. There are only certain appliances, specifically like hair straighteners or some hearing aid chargers that we've heard about, that can operate only on 110. So if you're not sure, check the label on that appliance and see, because if it is 110 only, you sure don't want to plug it into a 220 volt plug, because otherwise you're going to have a bit of a mess on your hands. And so you can get travel converters, voltage converters, that will switch the voltage from 220 to 110. Please bring a mobile phone, and I'll explain why in a moment. It is very handy. Even if you don't get a local SIM card, that's up to you. But we use the mobile phone for communication, not to mention for translation, for like Google like the Google search function. It's just useful to have a phone. I would bring as well Ziploc bags. Although this tends to be the drier time of the year, you never know if it rains, or if you're in a small sampan boat in Ninh Binh or somewhere and you get a splash of water on stuff. You can put your wallet, your phone, you can put, whatever that really needs to stay dry into a Ziploc bag. I always carry like a box of them, because I stuff socks. I use them as like packing cubes as well. I find them super versatile. That's my impression. And take your medications. If you have medications that you need to take into your hand luggage, that's really important, because God forbid, if you do check your luggage and it gets lost, you don't want to have anything that you can't live without. That's just inconvenient. Insect repellent is also useful. Not usually super buggy on most stops on this trip. Ninh Binh at the end, when we're in the lakes area in northern Vietnam, maybe. But worst case, better to have it than not. And Canadian bug spray is just better, I think, than anything. I always carry a little bit to these places. I think that's it. Did I miss anything? We put for the Mekong trip a handheld battery operated fan. You can probably find it on any market in Ho Chi Minh City when you arrive, but it is nice for those really hot days to stay cool. Otherwise, you can buy one of those beautiful regular sort of fan things. They're great, but you get those there. You don't need to bring one with you. Anyway, let's move on. Currency. So in Vietnam, they use the dong. There are 17,000 of them in $1 Canadian, which always makes things interesting. Oftentimes, though, they'll show prices with just the 1,000. So they'll just put like, 20. So it's not 20 dong, because that would be like a fraction of a cent, but it's 20,000. And so it is handy, because in the smaller markets, to have local currency. So how do you get it? Do not get it at a bank in Canada. They will look at you sideways. And don't bother with the exchange places at the airport. First of all, they won't carry Vietnamese dong, and second of all, the exchange rate will be horrible. I do suggest the best way is using a debit card or a credit card. ATMs in Ho Chi Minh are ubiquitous. They're everywhere. But unless you have a very special kind of credit card from a Canadian bank, the exchange rate and the fees tend to be ridiculous. It's why we strongly suggest using the Wise card. This is a prepaid debit card. It's like it actually says Visa on it. So you can use it like a Visa card. You charge it up by sending some money using Interac e-transfer into the account. So you apply for it online. All the details are in the pre-trip information document. You can see what your balance is in Canadian dollars. You can change it into other currencies. You don't even have to change it in other currencies, because when you use that card or when you tap to make a purchase, it will automatically convert it at a rate that is, in my experience, better than anything that I've seen anywhere else in Canada at a retail level. So we like the Wise card. Our members that have gotten it think it's the best thing since sliced bread. Up to you. That's what we suggest. For Vietnam only, some people say, oh, should I go and get US dollars? To convert from Canadian to US and US to dong makes no sense. So don't go out and get US dollars for Vietnam. You might as well, if you want to use cash and exchange it locally, just go from Canadian dollars. It's not going to make any difference, and you're avoiding changing twice. That's my opinion there. But honestly, I never carry cash. I only carry a card, and I take money out at the ATM. Telegram. So as I was saying before, we use for all of our communications this app called Telegram, which is goes on your phone, and it is basically the same as WhatsApp or iMessage or Facebook Messenger or whatever. It works the same way. Please download this app before you go on the trip. There's some instructions in your pre-trip information document on how to do that. If you are, like me, to a point, a bit technologically challenged, please go to your child or grandchild. The younger you get, the faster it is for them to install it on your phone. And they will take your phone and they'll go like this, and then it'll be done for you in about a minute. So don't hesitate to ask for assistance if you have trouble with it. But it is super handy, because this is what Amber will use to send you messages in the evening to reconfirm the following day's program. That way we don't have to go around knocking on doors or phoning you or tracking you down, particularly if there's a free day. We can just send a message. You can use Wi-Fi in all the hotels, and many Wi-Fi is very ubiquitous in Asia. It's easier to use than in Canada, in my opinion. If you really want to be online all the time, like me, then you can get a prepaid SIM card when you arrive in Vietnam. Okay, you can get them anywhere. It's much easier than in Canada to get prepaid SIM cards, because you can get them in corner stores for the most part. And then you have to take out your existing SIM card, and then so you can do that if you wish. But it's not crucial for this trip. It's just handy to have your phone, so you can use Telegram, so you can get the announcements from Amber. And also, when you arrive, if you already have it downloaded, and let's say you have a problem or a delay, or God forbid you can't find the driver, you can send a message to Amber and she'll help you out. So her username, her Telegram handle, if you will, is in the pre-trip information document. Check it out. And send her a message, say hi. Anything else?
One more thing about Telegram. It's really important that you set it up prior to leaving the country. They do at the initial stage have some setup confirmations that tend to be attached to your original SIM card. So if you set up Telegram, but you don't confirm it or set up your user, leave the country, take out your SIM, you'll never be able to access Telegram. So it's really important that before you leave for the airport, you've got it set up. You've reached out to me on Telegram and just said hello and said, tell me which trip that you're on. I will add you to a channel where I will be broadcasting all of the information directly to everybody that's on our trip. So do it sooner rather than later, and reach out to me sooner rather than later.
Exactly. Amber loves to receive Telegram messages anyway. So you say,
I do. And then if you have questions pre-trip, you can reach out to me on Telegram as well. I will already be in Asia, so there will be a time difference for anybody that is coming to Vietnam. I'll already be in Asia time. So leading up to the trip, there will be delays in getting in touch with me just because of that.
Yeah, perfect. Good. Let's touch quickly on health protocols. Just two things I want to mention here. First of all, our trips are non-smoking. So we ask, if you are a smoker, I mean, you're obviously welcome to come along. That's not a problem, but please in the confines of the group. So when we're doing stuff together as a group, we ask you to please not to smoke or to go sort of outside or just away from the group. Because the majority of our members are non-smokers. So we just would appreciate that from anybody that's a smoker. More importantly, though, if at any time during the trip you feel like you're catching a cold or you're developing symptoms of something, first of all, please let Amber know. And second of all, please, if you are symptomatic, even if it's from just an allergy, I've heard, oh, it's just an allergy, or I always have this cough, please wear a mask, because we all know what it's like to be in a situation where you're in a bunch of people, you're at the golf club and somebody at the other side of the table is like coughing their lungs up or something. And you just don't know. And we are all a bit, edgy about the whole COVID situation. So, and you'll see the Asians do it. You'll see routinely when you're in Vietnam, if Asians are ill, they did that long before COVID. I mean, they're way ahead of us in that department. So please, if you are symptomatic, if you're coughing particularly, please wear a mask. Just again, out of respect for your fellow group members. Good. So let's talk a little bit about now. It's the day leading up to your departure. You're all ready to go for the flight. Keep an eye on your phone that day. If the airline is going to have a delay or a change of flights or something's going to go wrong, they will email you typically the day of, like in the 24 hours before. So it's good to know. And then if something occurs, your flight leaving Canada going to Hong Kong or Taipei or wherever you're transferring through is delayed and you are going to miss the connection flight, the sooner you let us know that you won't be on the flight that you're supposed to be on, the better it is for us to communicate that to our transfer partners, so that we make sure that they pick you, that they know your arrival time. Two ways to do that. First of all, our email delays@wheelandanchor.ca. So that gets sent out to a couple of us in the company, because we are, as Amber said, we're all in different time zones. So do send an email there, and drop a Telegram note. Again, this is why it's good to have Telegram, to Amber, so that she can also be prepared and let our folks in. She's going to be in Ho Chi Minh City before you, because of course, as we just mentioned, she's hosting our Mekong trip that precedes this. So drop a note to her so that we know. And the other thing is, you don't need to let us know if your flight's 5 minutes late or 10 minutes late. If you're on the plane that you're supposed to be on and it's late, we obviously track the arrival time. So we'll know if the flight is late. It's just if you're not going to be on that flight, that's what we won't know unless you tell us. So that's good to know. Leading up to, obviously there's a big time difference between Canada and Vietnam. So Amber's favorite app is Timeshifter.com.
Timeshifter. Yes, everybody should use Timeshifter. It will make a huge difference in your trip, actually being able to change your circadian rhythm and have as little downtime as possible. I religiously use this app on my way to trips and then do not on the way home, and suffer for at least a week with jet lag on the way home. So it is definitely worth it to use the app.
Yeah, we think it's a great little tool to adjust your routines a bit, so that you'll be much better adapted to the new time.
Yeah.
Be mindful of the weight of your luggage. I mean, kind of that goes without saying. Leave room in case you decide to bring something. I mean, I think I shouldn't say, some people go on a trip thinking that they're going to go Christmas shopping or whatever. But, and then it's like, oh my God, I don't have the space. Take less with you, bring back all you want until the weight of your luggage. So leave some space. Get to the airport early. Earlier is always better than later. Be comfortable. Flying is not a fashion show. It is for some people, but that's their problem. I'd rather be comfortable. So track pants are perfectly acceptable. Right, Amber?
No. No.
Okay, you could be comfortable and still look decent.
Yes, you can do both. Thank you.
I'm being facetious. Sorry for
I
that.
I am not, but you can do both.
When you arrive into Ho Chi Minh City after your lengthy flight from Canada, then look for in the arrivals hall. So after you've picked up your luggage, look for your driver. He'll be there. He'll have a sign either with your name. So look for your last name or your or the Wheel and Anchor logo, or ideally both. We always ask them for both, but it doesn't always happen that way. So if you don't find the person right away, please be patient. Look around a little bit. Often the arrival halls, particularly if there's a couple of international flights arriving, can be a sea of nameplates. So just deep breaths, be patient, you'll find them. And so give it a little bit of time to look around. And as I say, in the worst cases, if you have Amber's, if you've already exchanged information with Amber on Telegram, you'd be able to send a note saying, "Oh, I can't find the driver," and then we can start making phone calls. But it seldom happens. But anyway, that's just what we request that you do. I'm not going to go through the itinerary in great detail because it's all there laid out for you in as much detail as we know at this time. Obviously, things can and will change invariably. That's why, again, Amber will send a broadcast message, usually at least once a day, stating what the departure time is for the following day, any information that you need, any other notes that we pick up from our local guide that are useful for the next day. So that's typically going to go out. You send it out like around dinner time, right? Is that?
I often will use a document that gets updated regularly, and you'll have a link that you can go to. Only in major changes, like we've decided to leave the country, will I send a message and advise of these kinds of changes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So one thing we should mention, Gordon, so for anyone that's coming from the Mekong trip, we actually will be arriving a day after most of the people that are arriving in the airport.
Right.
So we kind of will be like the Amazing Race. Some of us will be coming on a boat and in a bus, and some people will be coming in on a flight. Anyone that's doing just the Vietnam portion will be coming in the day before we arrive.
Right. That's right.
Then,
yeah.
Yeah. So then the first day, there's 5 people that are just doing the Vietnam portion. The first morning, I will be sending Telegram instructions in the channel, and they'll be meeting up with our city guide in the morning. And then we'll be coming together with the folks that are coming from the Mekong to the Vietnam. We'll be meeting up by lunch.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing out. That's a good point. So that's great to know. So yeah, you're getting in, if you're just doing Vietnam, you're getting in ahead of everybody else into Ho Chi Minh, which gives you a nice night to rest and relax and catch up and all the rest of it. So, and then you get to meet the members who, some of them will be flying home. So you get to, so it'll be party time that second day in Ho Chi Minh City. So you'll have a blast. So as I say, you're going to spend a few days up in Ho Chi Minh. One of the highlights is going to be the Cu Chi tunnels. So the tunnels can be quite small in some areas. So if you're claustrophobic, just let Amber know. There are places to go that are absolutely not claustrophobic, but there are also places that are claustrophobic. So it's better to know in advance. You're going to fly up to Da Nang and visit Hoi An and Hue, amazing towns, really, really cool. There may be an opportunity to swim in the sea. Maybe it just we'll see how sort of the program goes. And so swimwear would be useful, and I think there's pools in some of the hotels as well. So you'll all be good there. And let's see what else I wanted to mention about the program. So Ninh Binh, which is the last couple of days of our trip after Hanoi, is beautiful countryside. You will already know, I mean, part of the reason obviously you signed up is that we chose this instead of the very over touristed Ha Long Bay. I think you're gonna have a marvelous time here. The scenery is just spectacular. It is rural. There are sort of rural villages and so on and so forth. This is probably one of the only places that insect repellent, as I say, may be necessary, because you're going to be doing stuff on by boat and so on. So but other than that, There's not too much to say in terms of the itinerary. It's all laid out for you in black and white in the pre-trip information document. And so, yeah, I'll just flip through the slides here. But in the meantime, if people have questions, now would be a good time. If you have questions that are specific to here's a picture of the tunnels. So this is actually where the tunnels are actually quite large. They get really small. If you have questions that are specific to your booking or your air arrangements or that are personal to you, the best thing to do there is to send a message to Paula or Barb, whoever signed you up for the trip, to make sure that you get those addressed. Particularly if you have any questions about the visa situation. Again, you can get it on arrival, so it's not drastic at all. But if there are general questions, now would be a great time to ask any of those so that we can try to address them and for everybody else's benefit. So I see a couple of questions have come in already. Should we be taking malaria pills beforehand? Listen, we cannot give you specific advice on any vaccinations or prophylactics that you may wish to take. For Vietnam, you do need to consult with either your physician or a travel medical clinic, and they will tell you what you need to do. I will say that if you are opting to take malaria pills, that for them to be effective, you have to start taking them about a week before. It depends on exactly which one it is. So it's important to read the instructions because they do need to be taken in advance. Do interior flights have different luggage weight restrictions? That is a very good question. Interior flights have a luggage weight restriction of 20 kilograms. Your overseas flight might be 23 kilograms. So this is why, again, it is important to be mindful of that, that you should probably focus on a maximum weight of 20 kilograms. You can obviously take a hand luggage piece in addition to that. And quite frankly, for this trip, as I said at the outset, you could probably get by the whole trip with hand luggage. So I would actually take a lot less than that, and then save your shopping for the latter part of the trip. You can find great markets in Hanoi, in Ninh Binh on the way there as well. They're all throughout. So leave yourself that extra space, because that is a great point. And thank you for raising it, Lynn. It's typically domestic flights in Asia, just like in Europe as well, 20 kilograms is the limit for those. So thank you.
The other thing to be mindful of is a lot of Asian airlines are also putting weight restrictions on hand luggage. So even if you have a carry-on size that technically could fit, many times I'm finding that I arrive and they are weighing your luggage, that 7 kilograms is the maximum for carry-on at times. Sometimes it's being enforced and sometimes it's not, but you should, for these interior flights, be prepared that you may end up having to check your luggage, even if, like myself, I don't like to, but you might end up checking.
Yeah, exactly. Great tip for that. Yeah, okay. Are there any other questions that we haven't answered already? I don't see any other in the box. So this is a going once, going twice. Last chance to ask questions. Of course, you can always ask questions later on. Please just drop an email to Paula or Barb. We want you to be well prepared for this trip, and you will be well prepared, and you will have a great time, because Amber's a lot of fun, a great host, and Vietnam is an amazing destination. Try the food. It's my last sort of parting remark. Vietnamese, I adore Vietnamese cuisine. I almost like it better than Thai food. And as many of you know, I live in Thailand, and there's so many cool flavors and influences to it. Try it. You can eat the street food for the most part in Vietnam. If you're somebody that has a really sensitive stomach, you might want to just be mindful of that. I also don't advise eating anything that from the street that isn't cooked. So raw food can be dodgy. It's, generally.
In general, anything that's raw and not peeled, we don't recommend eating. Unless we are in the restaurant that we have booked, like a Wheel and Anchor restaurant, because I've vetted how that's working. on your own, don't eat anything that's peeled or isn't peeled, that's rinsed with water and washed with, because it can contaminate the vegetables. So you shouldn't be eating salads and things like that.
Exactly, exactly. And, you know, on the same note, we do recommend you drink bottled water. The hotels generally have filtered water, but it's not so much it's just that there are things in the water that we are just not accustomed to. So,
Yeah.
you know, particularly for the first couple of days, your system may be a bit sensitive. So, but that being said, please try the local food. They have such great food in Vietnam. And I know there's, you know, particularly after a number of days, there's always that hankering to have some comfort food from home, you know, a burger or something like that. It's fine, but indulge it, enjoy it. You're gonna love it. Yeah.
Well, in fact, I am just in the process of finalizing a lot of the menus. And so we are going out of our way to make sure, because Vietnamese food, a lot of people are going to be familiar with it, but in North America, we tend to like only get pho based and, you know, skewers of meat. Vietnamese food is one of the most diverse cuisines. And so we are making sure that we are not repeating meals. So we will have the opportunity on all of the meals to be eating a very diverse, delicious Vietnamese cuisine. So if you have a hankering for a burger, you need to do it on your, you know, free lunch or your free meal, because we will not be having that on our shared meals.
And you will thank us for it.
You will. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Good. Well, thank you all for tuning in. I'm envious that you're going to have this trip in Vietnam. I'm going to be elsewhere. Yeah, have a terrific time. Enjoy it, savor it. You know, it's going to be terrific. I look forward to your feedback at the end of the trip, and we'll catch up to you on another webinar in the future. And in the meantime, bon voyage, and yeah, see you all very soon. Bye-bye for now.